So you've probably looked at a bunch of videos on tips and tricks to improve your play. And while that's all good and dandy, the process of practicing and improving with those tips usually isn't linear. Without proper guidance, most players end up implementing these tips incorrectly. They start to develop bad habits that end up costly to winning their games. If we don't identify these bad habits, then we're gonna have a much harder time of winning easy rounds and climbing the Valorant ladder. So let's take a moment to pause and figure things out. Here are 8 game-losing mistakes that you're making in Valorant and how you can fix them to start increasing your winning percentage. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Before we get into things, this video is just a small piece of what we have to offer to you. If you really want a comprehensive series for improving in Valorant, then check out SkillCapped.com, where we provide every course you could possibly need to improve in Valorant. Our program offers aim tips, agent guides, VOD reviews, and so much more. If you truly want to take your Valorant play to the next level, then make sure to check us out. Link in the description. Alright, we have to start things off with one of the biggest mistakes we see players making in Valorant, and that is overheating. Overheating is essentially when you play too aggressively and push too far deep into enemy territory. You're trying to take fights that you don't have to take, and we get it. Sometimes you're feeling hot. You just got a kill or two on the enemy team, and you feel like you could get more. Well, let's break down why you shouldn't do this. Let's take a look at a common example of why this ends up being costly. Say we're defending A side. 2 attackers come by and you absolutely crush them with 2 high-level peaks. Things are looking pretty good. You have the 2-man advantage and some level of site control. Instead of waiting for your teammates to regroup and retake 5 versus 3, you decide to continue pushing and looking for more kills. And then, you over-regress and the enemy catches you and eliminates you. Now they have sight and can plant the spike. Because you died early, the enemy now has time to set up for the post-plant defense as well. Now your team's down a man and has to play retake. As an attacker, rounds are much more winnable if you have the spike down and have a post-plant set up. By overheating, you gave the enemy your sight and greatly upped the odds of them winning the round. There are many more examples of overheating, but the premise of this concept is you're pushing and hunting for kills when you don't need to. Whenever you have a lead, you want to focus on maintaining the space you've gained. Wait to regroup with your team prior to going for more. That way, you have backup and greater odds of winning duels by having extra players on your side. Going off of overheating, a game-losing mistake you may be making is giving the enemy 1v1 duels when you don't need to. Now, during certain parts of the round, you'll likely have to go head-to-head with a player and hopefully you come out on top. However, there are certain instances where you don't need to make these 1v1 battles. You have teammates and should be utilizing them whenever you can to help you take these duels. That way, at worst, someone will be there to trade you if you get eliminated. In this clip, I'm pushing the same side as my chamber. That way we can double team any players we see, and at worst, someone gets traded. That's exactly what happens. We take a 1-for-1 trade, which is more advantageous to us as the attackers. This versus having only one person going by themselves, we could have lost the duel and gotten into a tricky 4v5 situation. Whenever you can, always try to drag a teammate or 2 with you to take a fight. Or join your teammates when you see them about to engage an enemy. That way you decrease the chance that you give the enemy a kill for free. Moving on from there, a huge game-losing mistake you could make in Valorant is only being able to play one role. I hate to do this, but I have to call out the duelist mains out there. Not all of you, but if you're able to only play one role, particularly a role that's insanely popular, you're gonna be in trouble. By being a one-trick pony, you'll likely be contesting roles with other players on your team. This can lead to conflicts amongst your team. Valorant doesn't currently have a role queue, so there's definitely going to be times where you end up with multiple teammates that play the same role. I'm sure you guys have seen the triple lock duelist move in Agent Select before. Yeah, it's not fun, as now you'll be missing roles in your composition. Or you may have 2 players that play one duelist, or another 2 that only play sentinels. Suddenly, you only have 1 player that can play initiator or controller, and then one of those roles is going to end up missing. From personal experience, that typically ends up being the controller. And let me tell you, pushing and defending sites is not fun without having smokes. As a rule of thumb, you typically want at least 1 agent in each role. That means 1 controller, 1 sentinel, 1 duelist, and 1 initiator. After that, you could have 1 additional agent if you wish. Because there isn't a role queue, it's important to be more flexible. We suggest playing at least 2 roles, so if too many players play one, you can play the other. Hold on though, we need to follow that up with our next big mistake the players make. When there's too many conflicting roles in the lobby, a mistake that players make is to try to just fill a role or agent that they've never played before. Do not do this. When we say to play 2 roles, we mean to actually learn how to play those roles and be comfortable playing them. For example, if you play Duelists and try to fill into Cypher for the first time, you're not going to be very effective with using his abilities. You won't know the setups, you won't know how to play off your utility. The playstyle for this agent is going to be completely different from what you're used to. As a result, you're going to feel uncomfortable throughout the game. This leads to you performing worse than usual and losing confidence during the match. Make sure to fully learn, and be comfortable playing 2 different roles. Don't go into an agent you don't know how to play. If both your 2 roles get taken up, we actually suggest still locking into one of those roles anyway. It's better to play what's comfortable for you rather than trying to fill something you can't play. You may have gaps in your attack or defense as a result, but you'll likely be able to make up for it with more than greater fragging capabilities on an agent you actually know. No one can play every role. Like, you'll never see Tens playing Initiator suddenly in pro play because he doesn't play that role. If he does, he'll be way less effective in the match. We all wish to have that perfect team composition, but it's better for everyone to be playing what they're comfortable with. Don't try to fill agents you don't play or haven't practiced on. We're going to switch topics soon, but we have to make one more note. Now we're playing agents we're comfortable with. But what if we're not playing these agents correctly? Playing the wrong style with your agent can be just as bad as playing an agent you're not comfortable with. For example, let's talk about controllers. Controllers have smokes, which are one of the most important abilities in the game. They help stall the attackers, and they help you attack sites. Losing a controller early on in a round is incredibly detrimental to your team. Now you're lacking a ton of stalling power and choke point coverage. If you've ever run into a site without smokes, you know this isn't fun. There's so many angles you have to clear, and chances are you'll get fragged on while trying to clear the wrong angle. Likewise, if you've tried to hold sites without smokes, you'll know this is just as difficult. If you don't have a sentinel setup such as Killjoy or Cypher, you won't have much to delay your attackers. The attackers can then outnumber your team and have good odds in taking the site and the round. Because controllers are so important to the longevity of a round, you typically want to play more passively. Stay alive as long as you can so your team has those smokes available to use as needed in a round. Now, let's switch gears to Duelists. Duelists are meant to create space onto sites and take first engagement onto the enemy. Alright, that was a big cluster attempt. Let's go forward and focus more on the enemy themselves. A ginormous mistake we see players making in Valorant is not adapting to the enemy's playstyle. Most players have habits, whether they recognize it or not. For example, some players just like to run it down sights, other players like to peek the same angle over and over again, and others like to play the same position every single round. This kind of info on how the enemy plays is crucial to being able to effectively counter them. Let's say you're playing defense and are losing the A site 5 rounds in a row. Well, unless you change something up, you'll probably lose 5 more rounds. Say the enemy's able to take the site because you and your enemies aren't able to slow their pushes down. With that in mind, you have 2 potential solutions. You could just stack more players onto the site. Based on probability, if the enemy rushed A 5 rounds in a row, they'll probably do it again, since it's been working for them. The other option is to switch up the players on the site. Perhaps you need more stalling power. Having an agent like Brimstone to smoke and molly choke points would be a great agent to put on the site. Or perhaps you want a sentinel like Sage, who can wall off and chuck slow orbs on the main choke point the enemy's been pushing. This would help delay the enemy's push and give more time for your team to rotate and have more members to defend the site. Either of these 2 options could be viable based on how the enemy's playing. These solutions only become clear though if you're consistently paying attention and identifying the enemy's style of play. Figure out what their habits are, and from there, you can create solutions to work around those habits. Doing this will put the enemy in more uncomfortable situations, thus giving you more room and space to frag and gain crucial rounds. Following that up, we need to also talk about our own playstyle. It's important to identify our own habits, so we can make sure we're not too predictable. You don't want the enemy to be able to read you like a book, and therefore counter your play. Say you've been peeking A main at a certain angle every single round. An easy counter to this is purchasing an operator and having a player challenge that angle at the start of the round. Unless you've got 10s level aim or an operator yourself, chances are the enemy will win this engagement. If the operator's too expensive, the enemy could bring more players along to peek that angle. Strength in numbers will likely give the enemy a higher chance of fragging you down. With that small detail of where you like to peek, the enemy is able to counter you and get a good chance of eliminating you early into the round. This is why you want to switch things up every few rounds, so the enemy can't read your moves. Say we've been using the operator on A site for 2 rounds in a row. The next round, we could change it up and go over to B. There's a good chance the enemy thought to go to B since they saw you A. But with this switch up, you outsmarted them, and you were able to position yourself at the right place at the right time. If you notice you've been doing the same thing round after round, the enemy's probably noticed that too. Make sure to keep things fresh. Whether it's switching your position or switching between being aggressive or passive during different rounds, these are just a few examples, but change your movements so the enemy can't read you. And last, but certainly not least, when talking about game-losing mistakes, we have to talk about economy. Even in high elo such as Diamond, we see players not buying together. Some sort of miscommunication happened, or perhaps no communication occurred at all, and that led to this event. When one person buys and the other doesn't, the chances of winning the round drastically decrease. If the enemy finds the player who saved, they'll easily eliminate him and take that space. That then makes it harder for the rest of the team to hold their ground or push a site with fewer players. After that, everyone's credits are drastically different, making it harder to buy together at future rounds. A simple call typically solves this. Look at everyone's economy at the start of the round and determine if everyone can buy or not. If someone can't, then just tell your team to save. More commonly though, we see players overbuying on save rounds. As a rule of thumb, you always want to have about 3,900 credits after buying all your essential abilities during eco rounds. That way you have enough for a rifle and heavy armor. Typically someone may end up buying a sheriff or maybe even some light armor depending on how the economy looks. As long as we don't pass 3,900, we should be good, right? Well, getting all the way down to 3,900 might not be the right thing to always do though. We have to think long term. If we consistently spend our credits until we're at 3,900, we drastically decrease the number of rifle rounds we could end up having. For example, say we lost pistol in the subsequent round and it's 0-2. We end up losing the first rifle round and now it's 0-3. Not looking good. We have a good chunk of loss bonus now though. If we fully save, we could have 5,900 credits, even if we lose the round. Most people will probably end up trying to drop all the way down to 3,900, just to give them a fighting chance of winning eco. Let's say we buy a marshal and heavy armor. That's nearly 2,000 credits. The problem here though is that the odds of winning are still pretty tough despite the investment. If we're unlucky and lose the second rifle round, we'll have to save again. Now it goes 0-5 with a very good chance of it being 0-6 since you have to save. Let's swap scenarios now. What if we saved most of our credits and just went with a light pistol when it was 0-3? If we look at our economy now, even if we lose the second rifle round, we'll have enough to buy again on the next round. That's an extra rifle round we get. If you ask me, I'd take an extra round with rifles and heavy armor over an extra eco buy with a marshal and heavy armor. Now, hopefully you eventually win a round, but you want to keep economy in mind for long term. We suggest at most investing into a marshal or sheriff during economy rounds. If you find that you're still well over 3,900 credits after that, then light armor could be an option to take in. Don't aim to drop all the way down to 3,900 though. Think long term. More rifle rounds equals more wins. And that is all we have for today's video. We hope you've learned and identified certain mistakes you're making in the game and how to properly correct them. And that is gonna do it for us today. As always, we here at SkillCapped.com want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.